Hey, everybody, welcome to the podcast. I'm Micheal Petrow, your host. We are supported by our friends at Proper Design Works. For all your custom clothing and embroidery needs, head to Proper Design Works today. Why should you go there? Well, there's two reasons why. I personally like getting big batches of clothing all at once. I don't have to do like big shopping trips. I've learned in life that I kind of more or less have a life uniform. So it's great to order 12 of the same t-shirts, have them come up in fun, different colors and ideas, and then I'm done, right? That's the year. That's one t-shirt a month, right? I'm not going to go through 12 t-shirts in a week. You guys don't need to know my laundry schedule. The point is they do bulk orders, okay? That's what I'm getting at here. So patches, hats, t-shirts, hoodies, sweaters, toques, anything you need for branded clothing, you can go check them out on their Instagram page at Proper Design Works. The second aspect that I love, this is the need a few things category. Custom clothing. They do it oh so fucking well, all right? They're wizards with sewing machines and needles and thread. And if you've ever wanted a custom pair of jeans made for your body, made for your fit, this is the place to go do that. Okay. They take a lot of pride in what they do. I've known them for a very long time pre-podcast, and some of the things that come out of that shop. I tell you, you got to have a creative mind to look at clothing in the manner that they do. So whether you want something, logoed, branded, specifically for like sports teams, charities, stagettes, high school bands, cooler bands in high school, whatever you can think of that you need branded clothing for, head to Proper Design Works today at Proper Design Works on Instagram. And then when you're ready to place your first order, info at properdesignworks.com. Secondo, we are supported by Bodegos. Bodegos is one of my favorite restaurants in Winnipeg. For a lot of reasons. I like open kitchen. I like fun global food items, and that's what they do. Okay, let's cut right to the chase here. Bodegos offers flatbread pizzas, pitas, soups and salads, stir fries, fish and chips, but they're from different parts of the world, so you get to taste how things are done or their food culture, which is really fun, right? You want to go to a place and try a bunch of new shit. This is how you do it. So next time you're going downtown and you want to check out a new spot to get some grub, head to Bodegos on 211 Bannatyne. You can check out their menu online, bodegos.com, www.bodegos.com. And they're locally owned and operated. They really good fresh ingredients. That's the awesome thing about them too, is that these meals aren't bad for you. They're full of good, healthy things, and locally sourced as well. They shop in Manitoba. So thank you guys. We appreciate it. No, we seriously do. Couple housekeeping items. We're getting new gear, so you might notice the sound change a little bit. We'll try to keep that to a minimum because we bought a new, Rob Strachan got us a new board. Shout out to Rob Strachan, just showed up one day and I was like, okay, let's play. So super solid of him for doing that. And we're glad he's now in the fold inside the community. We did an episode of Sean Geek Podcast recently. Please go check it out. They're they're good friends of ours. We like them. We have a lot of fun when we talk with them. They've been on our show. We've done their show. Also, we're on the Manitoba Podcast Festival, September 26th, September 27th. It's going to be virtual online, so follow them on Instagram and Twitter, MB Podcast Fest, I believe. You'll see it on our feed too. So you can sign up for workshops. We're going to be in Podcasting 101. We still don't know why we were picked, but we were, and we're very gracious. We're very thankful for it. It's an awesome place to be with a lot of great people. On our website, realdebaters.podbean.com, there is we have Podchaser where you can vote for us and review us, but there's also on the Real Debaters Podchaser account is a playlist of all the Manitoba podcasts that we like to listen to and like to support and talk to and stuff. So please go check out that portion. Like I said, it's at realdebaters.podbean.com. Just find the review page and click on the Podchaser link, and it'll take you to our page, and then you can see the playlist, and I'll stop repeating myself. This week on the show, we are doing round 2 with Manitoba makeup professional, Manitoba makeup wizard, really just a Manitoba makeup artist, Doug Morrow. We went out to his farm, And at his farm, he has his workshop. And he let us into his lair of makeup and all the cool things that he's done. Man, this place was so fucking cool. We did it when it was super thundery and noisy out. Thundery a word? It was raining out that day and there was a lot of thunder. So if that's what you hear in the background. But instead of, we learned who he was the first time. Now we want his take. We called this the cover up, pun intended. And it's all about his view on what he loves about makeup in Hollywood. And then we asked him questions about stuff. Well, I'll just let you listen to it. So this is another Real Talk with another Manitoban who makes movies, part of our series. If this is your first time, we've done a couple other ones like this. Go check them out. So yeah, we got the Manitoba Podcast Fest, new gear, check. I got nothing else, so I'll cue the reel and you enjoy the show. Hello, Doug Morrow.
Hello.
Hello, Jimmy Skinner.
Hello.
Where are we, Jimmy Skinner?
We're out in the sticks, Michael.
Specifically, are we in Enola or are we in Springfield, Doug?
You're in Springfield, but I believe you're still in the township of Enola.
Okay. For all of our rural listeners, this is the first time we've stepped outside the perimeter, which was really cool.
They're cheering right now.
They are. They're like, way to go. They're in the country. Specifically, though, we are in Doug Morrow's workshop, and it is a sight to behold. This is like a ode to all things makeup, if I may say so myself. How long have you had this studio here?
Almost 2 years now.
Really?
Yeah.
And it's probably definitely made it easier on you instead of not having one, I would say.
Instead of doing it out of my basement?
Yeah.
Yes. It's purpose-built studio for what I do. So it's pretty fun.
Awesome. I would love to have something like this for podcasting. This would make it a lot more fun instead of using our living room. But one day when the housing markets start to get a little easier to deal with. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with our makeup friend from Winnipeg, Doug Morrow, who has graciously invited us out to his studio to talk more about the art of movie makeup and magic. And the last time we talked to Doug, we wanted to know who Doug was, but this time we want to know what Doug knows. I affectionately titled
the podcast is over.
I affectionately called this episode the cover up, just to kind of play on everything. So what I wanted to start with you today, Doug, was when would you say that makeup really started to be prevalent in the industry and create the things that we see today? Like where would that have originally taken place?
Oh, I mean, you can go back to Lon Chaney doing The Phantom of the Opera and The Hunchback of Notre Dame back in the 1920s. You know, nobody had seen stuff like that before. It was pretty amazing. But to me, I think makeup really started to emerge in terms of more special stuff. It was about 1939.
Okay.
If you look at the 1939 roster of films, to me that's the year, and a lot of film historians will agree that that's the year that movies changed. Movies shifted from a lot of things, stories, but also in how they were produced and shot. And they kind of made a leap in that year to me. But there were also incredible makeup achievements in that year. The Wizard of Oz, Son of Frankenstein. Like there was quite a few, and not just like really special makeups, but to me that's kind of when it started to happen. Yeah.
And like, what were some of, because we talked about this before with the evolution of what you had learned and the things that you were playing with. What were some of the basic things in a kit back then? Like what were they, I guess the evolution of it, right? Like what did they start with that was incredibly like archaic or weird, or like, how dare you put that on somebody's face? Like what were some of the tools of the trade before?
Your lead paints and have you.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
That's okay. You can eat that.
I think that was fine for the Egyptians, Jimmy, but no, by then they had they had developed what makeup is, and still pretty much the same. The same ingredients pretty much. I mean, now we can make foundations out of silicone and things like that. Pancake makeup became popular.
What's that?
Pancake makeup is
Is that made out of like pancake?
yeah, exactly.
Really?
Yeah, no. No.
Put
It's amazing that you found your way out here.
Yeah, everything's on the nose with me, buddy.
Yeah. No, pancake makeup. I don't know why actually they call it pancake makeup, but it's basically a water-based makeup. So it was it's a dry substance that you'd use a wet sponge in, and you'd sponge it onto the face wet, and then it dries. And the reason why they invented it was because as films were, because all the old films, a lot of them were shot outdoors. They would build a set that looked like it was inside, but it was outside because of the light. Once they could shoot inside and they developed, all the great lighting, it got really hot and actors would sweat off the grease paint. So they invented pancake makeup, which went on as wet but dried and didn't require as much powder and had different ingredients, so it kept you drier.
Sweat-proof.
In a way, except that if you sweat too much, then it could run through it.
Okay.
But most makeup kits were very simple. They had foundations and again, there wasn't like a huge variety like there is today, but foundations, little eyeshadow and blush and lipstick. And then to do more theatrical things, they had nose putty. And that was pretty much it. And they had liquid plastic called collodion. You paint that on your skin and it shrinks and looks like very realistic scars. If you saw Platoon,
Yes.
that's what Tom Berenger had on his face for his character. And then they would use cotton and latex and things. But
So things are, like, it's a very traditional kind of sense where everything's still kind of the same, but you just made, like, you found better ways to do it, kind of?
Just slight advances. And then, so the other thing that happened in the 30s and was really taken advantage of in 1939 was foam latex.
Okay.
So I think it was Perce Westmore who noticed that they were making props and things out of this new material, foam rubber, which is a special liquid latex with things added to it, and you put it in a mixer and you beat air into it, and they were putting it into molds to make staircase railings and all kinds of stuff. And I know in the war, when they wanted to use something more advanced than maps to send to the people fighting overseas about exactly where they needed to bomb things, they would create miniature cities, mold them.
I've seen that in some older movies.
Mold them in plaster and make them out of foam latex, roll them up and fly that map to wherever they were in Europe. And then they could unfold it and say, when you're flying over and you're going to see these things, you need to hit this and this.
That is an accurate map as they come.
Yeah.
No kidding.
So they were using it for all kinds of stuff. And I can't remember. I think it was Perce Westmore of the Westmore family. There was a very famous makeup man named George Bow. And
he came up in my research.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of these names are sounding familiar.
He was the first one, George Bow was the first one to actually use foam latex as a makeup thing, and he developed a formula which was used well into the early 1980s with little tinkering here and there. So 1939, they really started to, I think the Hunchback of Notre Dame with Charles Laughton was another one where they used foam latex, and that was a big game changer.
Do you think, because Lon Chaney is the man of 1,000 faces, that's his nickname,
but he actually wasn't the one who had that moniker. There was another very famous actor named Cecil.
Heard here first.
Yeah, Cecil Holland.
Okay.
Was a really well-known actor in the silent movies who was really adept at doing makeup. He was really good, and he had that coined on him, the man of 1,000 faces. But he left acting to become a makeup artist and gave the moniker to Lon Chaney.
Oh, all right. Yeah, because everything that I looked up to talk about today, Lon Chaney is right at Lon Chaney Jr., right? Like those are
if you look at that poster up there that's the Phantom of the Opera from
my God, this one right here, right?
Yeah, 1925. I don't think they've ever done the Phantom of the Opera better.
I don't think so, because you know what? I've seen the theater play, right, and the movie and stuff like that, and the remake that looks like a phantom. Everybody else just looks like it's now is. The old stuff I'm not too familiar with. Maybe Jimmy, you know this, but is it always been acid that was thrown on his face? Okay, so
no. So I read the book in elementary school.
Okay,
and he was deformed.
Okay, so like the Elephant Man kind of,
yeah,
where it's not a freak accident, it's just a birth defect. Okay, yeah, that looks like the sunken eyes.
Oh, he based it kind of on a skull. How he, so that's why his nose.
You can feel that with the
up.
cheekbones too.
Yeah, his nose is pushed up, the cheekbones, and then he put wire rings in around his eyes to make them look more open and skull-like.
Oh, okay.
And
like,
then he
am I wrong here? But you can kind of like see the bottom eyelid.
So then he painted that white, and then painted dark underneath it to make his eyes look even more open and skull-like.
Oh, I love that.
And then he would have used, I think probably nose putty on his cheekbones, and then he had a rubber wig with, higher hairline with the hair there, a wig, and then the teeth.
That is a mousetrap if I've ever seen one.
Yeah,
that one jewel sticking out the side there. I tell you,
yeah,
it's old Chomper.
Yeah, dentist would look at that and old Chomper. Yeah, dentist would look at that and be like, cha-ching. How long would that take to put on, you think?
Well, there's a lot of stories going around about how he did his makeups, and I do know that he had. I don't know if it was a life cast taken of him, because I don't know if they had that technology then. He definitely had a fake head of himself. So I don't know if it was a life cast or someone sculpted it, or
I have a fake head of myself too, don't you, Jimmy?
Yeah. And he would use that to not only design and practice the makeups, but there's some people that say that he would build up the stuff onto the face prior with nose putty and stuff, and then put it onto himself. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but he certainly used that head to practice how he was going to create his makeups.
Well, I know, and I this is nowhere near what you do, but I know when I go get my beard trimmed, now hang on, I'm going to pull this in here for a second. When I get my beard trimmed, I can't do it myself because I don't know what I'm looking in the mirror, but I'm looking at a reflection. But when someone's looking at me, they know how to make it fit with my face. So it would make sense that he would make a fake head of himself, because putting it on yourself versus watching how you'd put it on gives you a different perception.
You just need some kind of bearded geopat.
Yes, exactly. I need something to can we do that, Doug?
Sure.
I'll pay you whatever the $5,000 head to make my beard look better.
There, yeah. I'll do it for that.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's actually a forerunner of somebody doing, either design drawings or digital designs now. He was doing 3-dimensional, like a maquette of what his makeups would look like.
Interesting.
Which nobody did, I'm sure.
Just back to Chaney for a second here. Had he not made such headway with Phantom of the Opera and
Hunchback
of Notre Dame, do you think someone else would have come along and figured it out? Or is that like is that a precipice for the makeup industry? And
yeah, I mean, other people were using all these techniques for makeups, but they were for, an aging makeup or things like that. He was taking them and using them for more horrific faces and actual character racial changes too. He was turning himself into Asians for movies and doing all kinds of stuff.
He was the original Tropic Thunder with Robert Downey Jr.
He was doing stuff that a lot of them weren't doing.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Rick Baker did Robert Downey Jr.'s color change in that, which, I mean, that for makeup alone is pretty...
But it wasn't just color. It was also he had a prosthetic nose and a lower lip and chin. And then the hair...
No, he didn't. He had surgery done.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
What was his...
Lazarus, something Lazarus?
Kirk Lazarus.
Kirk Lazarus.
Yeah. The most just dickhead actor and
Yeah.
of all of fake movie cinema. What is your favorite makeup to do out of everything that you've done? What do you like? Actually, let's do this in two parts. What are you really good at, and what do you really love to do, and are they the same thing?
That's hard to say because I want to be really good at it, or I think maybe I'm really good at it. But
Dude, I know you're really good at it.
I'm one of those people that I'll do something and I go, I suck. I should just be a garbage man or something.
It comes with art.
Yeah. If you're a creative type,
I think I'm pretty good at doing aging makeups, character work like that. Like I think I've developed a good eye for that. But another thing I think I'm really good at is doing, especially on women, a makeup that doesn't look like they have makeup on.
Oh, okay.
Which
Like
is,
a got out of bed
which is
look?
a skill. No, like I think we talked about this last time. I did a TV series called The Pinkertons.
Yes.
So the lead, was supposed to look like, a nice looking person, but not wearing makeup. So, that's...
I can't even fathom.
Yeah, but I'm just saying there's a lot of women out there, I'm sure, who would love to look like they don't do makeup. Like you could create a whole side business on this is how makeup looks without makeup being on your face, my dear. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she had full foundation on and everything and go to set and nobody would know. And I've had another experience, and I won't say who the actress was, but usually what happens is the actors come in early, we do their makeup, then they'll go for what's called a blocking of the first scene. So
everybody stands in their place, and
it's not really a rehearsal. It's just where's everyone going to be in the shot? Where should we put the cameras? And then, so most of the times, the actors will come and get made up first, and then go to blocking. But sometimes, depending on their schedules and whatnot, they might go to blocking first. So one time on this one show, an actress who I was working on, she went to blocking first, and later on the DOP, the director of photography, came up to me and he said, I didn't realize how much stuff you were doing to her until she came.
Now I know why they're nameless. Okay.
And it's not it's no and it's not that she was like super unattractive without makeup. It's just that
he didn't see what you do.
And none of them do, right? They show up, and I think that a lot of them think, oh, they're just, why does this process take an hour and a half? Not on one person, but
Until
to get everybody ready, because they all show up and they just look normal.
Yeah.
Well, that's the skill.
You think they're normal.
And I guess if it doesn't look like you did anything, you did your job.
That is
exactly.
art.
And that's the biggest compliment. So I've had that happen a couple of times, and
that's your biggest compliment right there.
Yeah.
Cool. What's the one thing you're working on right now that you're learning? With this industry, I would imagine you're always trying to stay ahead of the curve. There's a new thing out there, like with Shauna. Like there's always something new with hair. There's always something new with comedy. I'm sure with Jimmy, there's always something new in podcasting. So is there a thing right now that's kind of you're like, oh, that's new. Maybe I should get my hands on that or try to dabble in that.
Yeah, like we have. I think maybe we discussed this last time, but there's new technology to create prosthetics and. So there was a technique developed a few years back for Passion of the Christ called prosthetic transfers. So I've been using them more for doing character makeup. A lot of people just use them for cuts and wounds and stuff like that. So I've been using them more for aging makeups, and so that's kind of learning how to use the material. But for me, what I keep trying to learn and master is, especially when it comes to doing character makeups like that, is to try and make it not look like makeup. Like how can you look at a makeup and then a real person and try and achieve that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing. So that's why I'm really enthused about using these transfers, because I've been using them on a few shows for aging and stuff, and either people don't know it's there, or they're not sure how much you've done, and you can't see the edges, and so that's what I'm trying to learn.
Cool.
Right now.
What's I put it in the list here for us to talk about, and I'm interested. What's the
meta?
I try, Jimmy. What was, and I equate this to a movie. So Tom Hanks in Castaway looking down, going, I have made fire. I have made fire. What's a fire moment, a big moment in the makeup industry that was a fucking just a game changer? And I mean, this could be 30s, 40s, 50s, because I know I really wanted to talk to you about the evolution of makeup today. So, like, are there certain things over the years that have just like when man learned how to cook meat or made the wheel, right? What are those moments in makeup?
Definitely foam latex.
Yeah.
Because that totally changed it. Because up till then, you were starting every day with a material building stuff onto the face, and now you had pre-made pieces that looked the same every day that you were gluing on, and it cut the time down immeasurably. You weren't still trying to figure out stuff. You was like taking that nose and putting it on, and you knew every day it was going to look the same. So there's that, and then I guess using silicone now instead of foam rubber, it looks more like flesh, like right out of the mold. So when someone shows up on set, it looks more realistic. So that's a game changer. And then we have these alcohol activated paints. It's kind of like a watercolor palette box, but it's makeup, and you activate it with 99% alcohol. Cool. And those are a game changer because they stay. They don't rub off like makeup. Okay. And you can put them on in washes and build up color, and it just looks more realistic than using like a cream, makeup or whatever. Just things like that. These transfers that I was talking about, those are a huge game changer because now you have a prosthetic in your hand that you can slap on the person.
Yeah. Give me your face.
Because the transfers are made out of a thickened glue that we use for gluing prosthetics on. So the prosthetic is already sticky. So it's just placing it in the right spot and just putting it on the actor, as opposed to using glue and a brush and putting glue on and pushing the appliance down and making sure it's in the right spot. This is like bam, and it's on. So I did a TV series last year, Tales from the Loop, and I had to do these aging makeups for the last episode.
Which you got nominated for.
No, I didn't. We were trying to get nominated.
Oh, okay. I misread that post. I was super stoked for you when I saw that.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, it would have been cool.
Fucking assholes! If you're listening, this man needs to be nominated.
There you
He's
go.
got the funnest house in Manitoba.
Thanks.
Hard in the paint, Doug Morrow.
Yeah. Anyway, so I did an aging makeup with 6 prosthetics, an old age stipple, and paint in an hour, which if I had used other technologies would have taken at least 2 hours.
So it's all about cutting time.
Yeah, I mean, especially for TV, because TV moves so fast.
Yeah.
So the faster you can do it, you're more of a hero.
Right.
Doug's got him out of makeup in under an hour. We got some time.
That's right. Yeah. Let's screw around with that lighting a bit more. So yeah, those are kind of like the big game changers for us.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is like digitally scanning stuff. So instead now you don't need to actually do a full body cast of an actor. You can scan them and have it milled out.
Really?
And now people are actually
like a ENC machine or whatever, where okay.
Yeah, or people are designing prosthetics and molds in their computer and using that
AutoCAD
machine
and stuff.
Yeah, and then using that machine that you kind of like grow it with resin and making molds and stuff that way, which
Chris Evans has been a 3D print of a person all this time, and we had no idea.
Yeah, seriously. You're fucked if I know. That kind of brings up something. 3D printing. Is 3D printing making a play into makeup, or is it still something that is maybe argued because you can do more with the hand than you can do with the machine?
Well, people are using it, like I said, for, sculpting in the computer and making molds in the computer and printing them and stuff. And I've never seen pieces made this way. I know, for instance, that in The Dark Knight with the Joker with Heath Ledger, those clown masks were all created in a computer.
Okay.
And I believe they were 3D printed, and then I think they molded them and then made them out of rubber or plastic or something.
Make it look more mask-like.
And probably fit better to the face.
Probably fit better to the face.
Yeah, like with your facial, instead of like micro movements, it's on
Right.
your jaw. It's on
But
your
these are just the
jawline.
clown masks they used at the
Okay.
beginning of the movie.
Oh,
Yeah,
not
the
the
bank
actual
robbery.
snake
The bank
guy.
snake.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It seems to me like that would be an expensive thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, whenever you build stuff like this, you want to show the director what you're doing. And I don't know if looking at a computer screen is
Gives
enough
it the justice.
for them to see what it could look like. Whereas if you show them like an actual 3-dimensional thing, they might be more
Right.
apt to go, "Oh, I like that," or "Can you just make this a little more, bigger or something?" And
I like being able to try my glasses on when I buy them online on the face. So you know what I'm talking about. Doug.
yeah.
Are some of these techniques like you look at you can compare it to like say the automobile industry or any industry for that matter? Are some of these older techniques that are so archaic still being used? Like, are you still using them today, even though they might be out of date, or someone's kind of giving you guff about why you know?
No, I mean you still have to know how to create stuff out of nose putty, because on a lot of movies and TV shows that you do, all of a sudden,
Ooh,
this is
spooky
ominous.
day for this.
Everyone really listen to this.
Yeah, we're doing
When they
some-
come to you on the set and say,
we're doing some ASMR here today.
It is a perfect day for this, I think.
totally, until the power goes out.
Yeah.
yeah.
You still need to know how to do all that stuff. You still need to know, because they'll come to you, and it's happened to me, I don't know how many times, they'll come to you and say, "Hey, we decided for this fight, I know we said we didn't want a cut on this guy, we want a cut," or "We decided we want the bad guy to have a beard," or "We decided da-da-da-da-da," and you've got to now pull it out of your ass
Right.
to make this work.
Pull that beard out of your hat.
Sometimes it's the next day or 2 days, or sometimes it's 10 minutes from now.
Right.
So you have to have all these skills that Lon Chaney had back in 1925
That's incredible.
up to today, because you will use them at some point. So and the other thing too is when you're a kid starting out, everyone starts out with latex, nose putty, Dermawax, cotton, and
Yeah.
grease paint. That's how all of us start.
That's your. I was going to ask you, is that your kit? Is that would be
Those things are in my kit. I could go over there and pull out mortician's wax and a spatula and build a nose on you and put a cut on Jimmy.
Can you give me a better jawline?
Yeah.
I need one.
always wanted
for
a more
myself
square
first.
face.
Yeah.
Us facial hair people,
Yeah.
it's only there to make the Ukrainian less obvious.
Always wanted a jaw.
Yeah. But you need to have all those skills.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like there are some industries where people like, I guess the music industry would be a great comparison, where you can buy all these programs and you can buy all these instruments, and you can really get away with, like, if you have no tune, if you have no pitch, you can fix that.
Oh, yeah.
And I've learned that with this. Like, I've played around with my voice enough times to be like, wow, I can actually sing coming out of Audacity, but going in I can't. But you can fix it in that. So it's a safe assumption to say that you can't skip past 60 years and jump into this industry without following the greats. Okay, interesting. Who did you?
You need to know the basics
Right.
Yeah,
before you can jump into. That's why, I'll meet young people and they want to make a mechanical mask or something, and I'll say, you know what? Make a prosthetic nose. If you can make a prosthetic nose and put it on somebody and it looks real, you can do anything.
really.
Right
Yeah.
on.
But making
'Cause
that prosthetic
believe
nose
me.
the first time is gonna.
Yeah,
That's, yeah.
because you can make an alien and people go, "Oh, that's really cool," but
No one's seen an alien
no one's seen
before.
alien. But if you can put a nose on somebody's face and
And
fool
nobody
them,
knows. Yeah.
that
Nobody
you
knows.
can
Nobody
do.
knows.
You can do anything if you can do that.
Oh, right on.
That's fuck.
And I know it sounds simple. It's not. Simple.
No, I would never think any of this stuff looks simple. Like I'm looking just around, and the teeth that Jimmy was looking at beforehand. Like I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at my amount of patience, and I'm knowing I'm not getting to those. Like, those gums look so
Well,
real.
and,
Doug.
and
know,
those
it's,
are the third set. So I made. Those are the first set. So I made 3 sets for this test of what we can't talk about. But, and
It'll be good though.
those were the first ones. So I made 2 more before I was happy with what
Like
I got.
I swear the gums look. It looks like something you would see at a dentist's office.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
What I know you and Smith you wrote back and forth, right? Who else inspired you, and reasons to why? Like, I mean, Lon Chaney, obviously, but is there anybody else that, because we talked about the correspondence you guys had and how that kind of got into the industry, but have you, are you more interested in, like, who are you following right now that's in the game that you're like, oh, they're doing some really cool shit?
I guess we talked about him a bit before, Japanese makeup artist Kazuhiro Tsuji.
Yes, we did.
So he's, he just won an Oscar for Bombshell,
Which I watched.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
So they're
a little
all
bit like Charlize Theron is annoying in it, but my God, is that Megyn Kelly?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It's genius. And same with Nicole Kidman. She has prosthetics on. John Lithgow.
Oh, Lithgow! Look, I want to beat Lithgow up. He looks so much like Roger Ailes.
Yeah.
Like, and just the comments that are flowing. Like, that guy is definitely doing something that you can't even tell it's prosthetic. In fact, you know what? Let's jump to something else here. What do you think of the prosthetic on Colin Farrell in the new Batman trailer?
I've only seen that. I've only seen
little
the
clip,
trailer,
right?
and then they've frozen that picture. So to me, it's cool. It's a cool take on the Penguin, and those guys that did it, Prosthetic Renaissance in New York, I've worked with them, and super nice guys, super talented. I think they just finished doing the sequel to Coming to America.
Yeah.
And so they're really great character makeup artists. So yeah, I think it's just a cool, different take on them, and it's not just a nose.
Right. It's
but the other thing too, you got to remember, a lot of times that this prosthetic stuff is, sometimes it's built like as a character thing. So probably what they did for Colin Farrell is that they really wanted to change him and give him a really specific look. I don't think that look would have worked on Burgess Meredith
or Danny DeVito
or Danny DeVito, but like Burgess Meredith, he, with his acting and that nose and the costume,
perfect.
That was perfect.
Yes.
And that was the Penguin, and that worked, right?
It was enough.
It was enough, and totally sold the character. And and
flipper.
So I like the fact that they're, and I just like, is it Christopher Nolan?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just like how he's making this.
Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves.
So
is
Matt
Nolan
Reeves,
is Tenet.
right? Matt Reeves.
It is fair to get confused on who has done Batman at what point in time.
Everybody's on Batman now.
Christopher Nolan did
Batman.
Batman with Christian Bale, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I just like Matt Reeves' take on it because he's making this gritty French Connection taxi driver Batman movie.
Oh my
Right?
Yeah, there's the eye right there, Jimmy.
Right? And so that's where this Colin Farrell version of the Penguin is totally going to work in that, because those characters in that movie, to me, and I've just seen the trailer, they shouldn't be nice and smooth. They should all be rough, real looking people.
Imperfection is perfection in this sense.
And that's why I think his makeup will work. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when that trailer dropped, I mean, all of us were like kids in a candy store. I felt like Charlie and Willy Wonka, right? Like, this is the golden ticket of Batman, and we were all very skeptical about it when we first started talking.
Because of Robert Pattinson.
Well, because it sounds weird. Like we weren't sure where it was going to go, but now it just, like Paul Dano's casting. I can't see this. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm so excited.
Totally.
Same here.
And I think that little, and like everybody is everybody. I can tell it's Zoe Kravitz's eyes. I can tell it's Robert Pattinson's frame. I can even tell you it's Paul Dano in those weird goggles in the beginning when he's duct taping somebody down, right?
Yeah.
But you were like, who is this guy in this one shot? And then a couple days later, the prosthetic guy starts like, I can confirm this is it. And I was like, I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it, because if they're going that far to create the character of, and I mean, it is the only character who has a disfigurement besides Two-Face, but that's acid based, right? But like a birth defect, I mean, the Penguin has to have the flippers, and I'm hoping he does. That would be like, if he puts his hands up and freezes and there's two flippers in the air.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying is that's why it works for his interpretation.
Yeah.
Whereas Danny DeVito in
Batman 89.
and Tim Burton's Batman. Batman 92.
You're right.
Damn it. Come on, Jimmy.
I'm going to go.
that world was more campy and more comic
Yes.
book,
Yeah.
and that's why that look, even though it was kind of dark, that worked for that. You couldn't put Danny DeVito in Matt Reeves' Batman world; it just wouldn't
So
work.
strange.
No,
Right?
no, it would
Yeah.
be, and that's in the casting and everything. But
And you also couldn't. I don't think you could put Colin Farrell
In-
Christopher Nolan's Batman world, because that to me was more like 1970s DC Comics Neil Adams Batman. In a way, it was way more realistic. Like if Batman was real, that's the world that it would be,
yes.
right?
And that's, I guess there's a big, like, there's more responsibility on makeup to be, I guess, like with the timeline, like if you can get very experimental with it because you have no bounds, but as much as the screenplay needs to be accurate, the continuity of it
You have
needs
to
to be
capture
accurate.
the essence of
Yeah.
of what the world is that the story's taking place.
I don't know if I asked you this before, so slap me if I have.
Getting
but
ready.
I'm giving that to Doug, not
Oh.
to you. I fucking lost my question. Okay, yeah, no, here we go. You'd mentioned that when the director goes, well, we want him to have a cut, we don't want him to have a cut, and then everything's on the fly. What are you a part of those decisions, or is makeup involved in that when they make the decision to do that? Because I feel that you're the guy who's going to be like, this is what we can and should not do.
Yeah.
So when those changes happen, are they leaving that to you, or is the director who doesn't know the makeup? Like, I'm not trying to create drama here in this question, but like how much is left to you to then on the fly go, okay, I have carte blanche, or do I have reins? Like,
What happens is before any project, you have your initial meeting with the director just to talk about certain things, and then you'll come back and you'll actually sit down and have a makeup or a prosthetics meeting. And sometimes the director's really specific, or sometimes you'll read something in the script and you'll go, oh, and I guess you want that. And sometimes they'll go, that's just something the writer did. Just ignore that. And,
poor writer?
yeah. And then
Oh,
and then sometimes, like this show that I'm working on now, I read the script and it sounds to me like, oh, it's not really much of anything. And then you have your meeting and it's like, oh, we need to.
we really need.
That's why I stayed up till 3 this morning, because I need to get my pieces ready for this test next week. Because this is way more than it was, imagined in the script. So there's those discussions that you have, and then there's deeper discussions about, the director might say, I want to do something to his teeth, and and that's where a lot of times you can step in and go, I think that's a good idea, but I think that it's going to be a lot of time wasted on something that you're really not going to see, and I think we could achieve more in effect doing this as opposed to doing this.
Right.
And 99 times out of 100, they will go, oh, okay, yeah, that's great, you're right.
Especially when it's about cutting down time.
Well, not even time, but it's not cutting down time. It's wasting time on something that you're not
Right.
gonna really see. Like, what is, and again, that isn't always a true statement, because I know, for instance, in the original Godfather movie, there was several characters.
Who did the make? I was reading about
Dick Smith.
Dick Smith did that. Yeah. So the cotton balls in the mouth.
But it's not cotton
It's
balls.
not
They
cotton
were
ball, yeah.
they were dental plumpers.
Okay.
Oh.
But there were other characters in the movie, like Sonny, played by James Caan,
Yep.
and
I actually have this.
Oh,
the
do you want a point?
the Turkish drug guy.
Yeah.
Stilazzo? No.
Salazzo.
Salazzo.
Yeah.
Lots
Yeah.
of-
He sleeps with the fishes.
And there was another character that the Coppola wanted them to have, like, bigger kind of, not sharp fangs, but bigger kind of canine animal-looking
Cool.
teeth, because that was kind of their character, that they were, they would just react in an animalistic kind of way.
Cool.
That's meta.
You would never notice or see them, but I think it was for the actors. Once they had
More
these
of a
things
feel.
in, it was a feel about to help
That's fucking
to
cool.
help sell the character, right? So in those instances, you can do stuff that no one will see. Like I've done, I worked with Jennifer Connelly, and she wanted a little lightning bolt tattoo kind of just behind her ear. I don't think we ever saw it in the movie, but she knew it was there, and that was part of her character. And I think that helps mentally to get into that.
That's
even
really
if it's
cool.
just something small like that. But
Well, I would imagine it like the evolution of movies is to make whatever you're doing seem more believable.
Correct.
Right? So in that regard, if you can give a character some sort of prosthetic that's going to push them even that much closer to your
Believable
purpose.
for us, the audience, believable for them, the actors. It's
Exactly.
nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's really. Do you see a lot of that more often than not, or is that?
yeah, I mean, but it can be anything.
Right.
It can be a little tiny
Lightning bolt.
tattoo behind your ear, or and I've worked with actors actually who we didn't have time to do prosthetic stuff, and I've done some things, and then they're saying, "Oh, I wish that we had time, because I would have felt more in character if I could have done this and this and whatnot." So
Interesting.
because they really, most good actors to me use the accoutrement that hair, makeup, and wardrobe can give to help them feel the character. Because it's not the part of the thing is they get the outward appearance, and that helps them
Inside
to
Internalize.
to internalize the character and make it more real and believable for them, even if there's things that we won't see as an audience.
That's really interesting. It's something I never even considered.
I don't even think
Jimmy.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and it would, because with green screens and everything, like you want as much of an edge, I guess, as possible to assume the role or assume the character. So
Yeah.
wow.
But getting back to our original question, there's, sometimes the director will say, hey, should we do this or that? And 99 times out of 100, they'll listen to you because they'll say,
trust you.
you're the
Yeah.
expert. We've hired you for this. And they'll also rely on your experience.
Right.
Working with kids or doing prosthetics or what's really going to show and stuff like that. So
What's it like working with kids?
for the most part, it's actually pretty good.
What are they-
Well, they're still actors. Like they still.
Oh yeah, no, I'm looking at, okay, so you've got a professional actor who's like, all right, I got to be here for 6 hours in this chair. We're doing some intense makeup, some aging stuff. They have patience from a
Let me
life
tell
learner.
you, except for one experience, I've done prosthetics on a lot of kids. Most of them have been better than the adults.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, I guess because the adults can bitch. They know how to like
Or they
formulate
just don't want to
complaints.
sit there and every 10 minutes they get up and in a 3-hour makeup or whatever.
And it's just extending it.
Yeah.
What I know we talked about this before with some of the pieces you've done, but how do you keep them in the chair? Because I remember we were talking about, I think it was Robin Williams we talked about before, and no, was that? Maybe that was somebody else.
Jumanji,
yes, yeah. So the movements of him and getting excited and moving around, right? What do you have a system where you can kind of keep somebody?
Wait, I didn't do anything on Robin. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think I'm confusing something.
Oh, yeah, I think you might be talking about another actor.
Oh, all right, that narrows it right down.
Yeah, which we won't.
That's fine. Yeah,
but yes, that can be.
Do you have tricks? Is what I'm saying. I don't want to know the stories, but do you have is there a way
to work as fast as
to work
you
as
can.
fast as yeah?
Yeah, and there's sometimes like this one actor where I just had to say something,
Oh man.
and
Gotta put 'em in their place.
you don't want to.
No,
No.
totally.
But in the end, you have to do the best job you can, because if it looks crappy coming
Then
out,
it comes back to you.
they're not going to go, hey, you were squirming in the chair. They're going to say, hey, Doug, you fucked up.
You were squirming in the
So-
chair.
And
Damn
And then
it.
you're gonna be like, they were squirming, and it doesn't
Yeah.
fucking matter.
So that's what one time this actor, I said, can you just chill out? If you're going to eat, take small bites, and, this needs to look good.
yeah,
And,
we're both in this together here.
Yeah,
Did they-
exactly,
How
yeah.
did they react to that?
well, I guess I sounded pretty firm.
Okay.
So
Oh.
they,
I'd like to see that
they
because you're a
re-
really sweet guy, man.
They
So-
well, and that's the thing. We'll talk about this in a second. But they responded well, and kind of like a little
good,
jokey,
good.
like going like
my
that, but
so okay,
taking
so,
a
yeah.
tiny little bite.
Yeah.
But just something, in the film industry, you're always working with different people, and sometimes you work with really quiet people, and sometimes you work with people that yell all the time. And in my experience in life, I don't listen to the people that yell all the time, because they're not yelling because they're mad. They just want to be heard, and they think this is the way.
It's a temper tantrum.
And I'm just, when I'm working, I'm just quiet, and I like to have fun and whatnot. And the few times that I've actually gotten really angry, people notice, and they will
Right, because you're not usually that way.
Because you're not that way, right? So then they know that there's a problem.
Right.
Like one time I was on a show, and I had done this prosthetic makeup. This is several years ago. And I had come to set, and I was like, where's so-and-so? And somebody said, oh, they've taken him for stills. So they'll do promotional stills or whatnot.
The stuff that gets on ET Canada, all that bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or right on the cover of the
Tributes,
Blu-ray or
oh,
tribute,
yeah,
or whatever,
okay,
right?
sure.
And I'm like,
Yeah, because
what
there
do
is
you
a
mean?
set photographer that's always running around, right?
And they usually, they plan for this stuff, and they'll say, hey, we're going to do this. So this happened, and so it's like, where are they? And they took me there, and we just finished, Doug. And I totally freaked out on them. And then I walked out of this room. We were shooting in a hockey rink, and I walked down the aisle, kind of the space outside of the rink underneath where the change rooms are, and I walked down. There was an empty garbage can there, and I hoofed it all the way down the hall. And people were like,
They paid attention.
There's a big problem here.
Yeah.
Because I was furious.
Yeah.
And so I went to the producer and said, I want to see these pictures, because if they're not good, I wasn't informed.
Right.
And
It's
I
not my
need to
problem.
be there.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just my work, it's work that's going to represent the show.
Right.
And
True,
if
yeah.
there's something that I see that they don't, I need to be there.
Say something.
Yeah. And so that was, just one experience, but that shouldn't have happened.
No.
No,
No.
totally. And that's
But
somebody not thinking
Most of the
about other
time,
people at the
most of the
time.
time
Garbage
I'm
can.
water off my back, and it's like, okay, what? I don't care.
Let's just get this.
If you want blue lipstick, fine. Let's just do it.
Make them an avatar.
Where's craft service?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine, could you create some sort of spa-like environment with some sage in the background, just to make these,
Cucumber.
Some
Cucumber
makeup
water.
artists, some makeup artists and hair people do. They have those little atomizers
Yeah.
that have the essential oils that
Yeah.
mist into the air and all that
just the
kind of
most
stuff. And
peaceful environment
I think
possible.
the woman that worked with me, Christy, I think she has one of those. And yeah, we'll light candles that smell nice, but then not everybody likes that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Not everybody likes blaring rock music first thing in the morning and stuff. So
Who doesn't love a little Motley Crue at 6:30?
we
Come
try
on.
to, until we get to know them, we try to keep it very neutral in every way.
It's a very personal experience.
Yeah,
after the
'cause
first
you're in
time
their
we talk-
face.
Yeah.
All day, every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't have to be friends, and I don't
No.
go out of my way to make friends with them. If a friendship develops,
Great.
which it has over my career,
Yeah.
I'm friends with a lot of actors that I've worked with over the years. But if it doesn't, it's
You're
fine.
doing your
It's
job.
a working experience.
It's a working relationship,
It's
yeah.
like I'm working in an office cubicle and you're beside me, and it's like, hey, Michael, how's it going?
Good.
Right.
Great
Yeah.
now.
Shave your beard because it looks terrible.
Coming from a guy who plays with faces all day long, I'm going to
It
trust that.
It looks good. I wish I could grow a real beard. I can't. This is the best I can do, a goatee.
Hey man, if I could rock a goatee, I totally would. But I look like I shouldn't be allowed near school if I have a goatee, right? So
Yeah.
I just don't even do it.
Yeah.
So I told you that instead of talking more about everything I wanted to get your opinion on some things.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna play. This is where we get the pro's eye on things. So I picked 3 different movies that, from your perception, just things that the naked eye, the audience member wouldn't know. And then you gave us 3 that I've got notes on that are incredibly fucking pivotal. This is going to be fun because it's Planet of the Apes is on your list, Citizen Kane is on his list, and Wizard of Oz. And I love that it's all evolution of makeup and not I picked all the cool new stuff, but he picked all of the historical stuff. So we have a lovely balance of both. So we will start with we're going to start with Jim Carrey in The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, which is Rick Baker.
And Kazu.
And Kazu. Oh, Kazu's in that too. Okay.
Well, Kazu is the one who applied it every day.
Really? So
Yeah.
Baker designed it.
Baker designed it, and I'm pretty sure he sculpted it, and Kazu applied it every day. Yep.
Okay, so basic question first. What does that entail? What are we watching as that's happening?
Well, Kazu applied every day until Jim Carrey hated it.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
And he was totally covered, contact lenses, dentures. That's a hard thing to do for 90 days. And I'm just giving you a little story here.
Yes, please. That's what we
So
want.
I don't think he didn't. It's not that he didn't like Kazu. He just after a while it was just like this is
Kazu
way
had
more
a
than
thing
I
he
thought.
didn't
It's
like.
torture.
To the
So,
point
yeah.
where
Yeah.
to the point where Kazu's like, I just can't deal with this and quit. And
Oh.
so they got another guy who's a super talented makeup artist, incredible, but Kazu's super fast. Like this guy, he is a genius. He's from another planet, sent to Earth to show us how this should all be done.
What's being done on Jupiter?
Yeah. And so the other guy, who's a super talented, brilliant makeup artist, and actually he's a friend of mine, couldn't do it as fast as Kazu. So they said, well, if you want Kazu back, you got to call him and ask him to come
Oh
back.
no!
And I believe, and that's what happened. Then Kazu came back and finished it.
With
Does
the
he want to
salary
sit in the
bump.
chair longer?
Kazu
Like,
could do that
yeah.
makeup in just over 2 hours.
Are you serious?
That is
Yeah.
completely insane.
Yeah.
I've seen a replica of it because when I went to Universal last year, they've got the makeup horror museum in the Universal Studios in Florida.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No.
Okay.
I've seen it online.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is amazing. They had actually Lon Chaney's kit
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
in like for display, and it's like when you go into your grandfather's shed after he's passed away and he's still got all the things from the 50s and the 60s.
Oh, it's cool, yeah.
That's exactly what his kit looked like. So you were looking at the evolution of it, but I think they had one of the masks. They must have had more
Probably.
than one on display. And it is this it looks like something out of The Man with the Iron Mask. Like it looks like a contraption that would be a torture device. But it was
like his appliances.
his appliances, yeah. And just to do that in 2 fucking hours.
That's-
And
Just
Bonkers.
over 2 hours, like 2.25 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
what was
you're-
his replacement doing it at? I wonder.
Like I couldn't.
Well, so I'm not saying anything that's not out there. Rick Baker put out books last year called Metamorphosis, his career.
I heard about it when he was on Rogan.
Yeah, and so in the book, this other makeup artist said that Jim listened to the same music every morning,
Okay.
the exact same music, and he would start it right when the makeup started, so he could track. This is what
When it's
the
gonna
makeup artist thinks where he should be in the makeup.
Oh, interesting.
And so I think that was how he could figure out that he was taking longer.
And there's an extra 15 songs on the
Yeah,
playlist.
exactly, yeah.
That's an interesting little trick.
So, yeah.
Wow.
But anyway, so your question about the Grinch is
My question about the Grinch is what from looking at it, what is that? Is that the foam that you were talking about? Is what is being done to him from just from the naked eye?
well, first of all, there's nothing in that makeup that's revolutionary
Okay.
in terms of anything that hadn't been done on. Very specifically to me, there was a movie that came out in the 70s called The Island of Dr. Moreau with Burt Lancaster.
Yes.
So
I've only seen the remake with Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer.
Oh no, you have to see The Island of Lost Souls with Charles Laughton, 1932 Paramount, and then you have to see American International Pictures Burt Lancaster version 1977.
I am
with
tonight
makeup with makeup by John Chambers and Tom Berman and Dan Strepek. You have to watch that.
Okay.
The Grinch makeup to me is exactly like that makeup. I don't know if they did this for Jim because he had big teeth. I don't know if they made teeth and then cast his face with the teeth in. But for the Island of Dr. Moreau, they had big dentures because they were playing animal creatures.
Yeah, they were hybrids.
They made dentures, put them in their mouths, cast their faces. So they all had appliances, wigs, hair work, dentures. Some of them had contact lenses, fursuits. Everything that Jim Carrey was going through, it's exactly the same. Just that didn't take 90 days to shoot. And
Right.
Yeah.
that Richard Basehart, who played the Sayer of the Law, wasn't in the makeup for 90 days. But in terms of everything was exact same. It was foam latex. It was Pax paint developed by Dick Smith, dentures, contact lenses, hair pieces.
Like 70 years later. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, no, not 70. The version I'm talking about was 77.
1970, okay.
But
Yeah.
still, it was 43 years
Right.
or whatever.
But the difference between the two, they're just using the same thing.
They're
just
using
with new
exactly the same
techniques.
thing. Just, in 77, they were pre-painting the pieces with rubber cement paint and using rubber mass grease paint, and Kazu was, using Pax paint and Illustrator, like these alcohol-activated colors. But there's nothing revolutionary about it, other than it was an amazing design. And Rick had to go through a million different designs to the point where they said, why, you know, we're paying Jim Carrey $20 million to be the Grinch, and we can't even tell it's him. And Rick's like, he's the Grinch. Like, he's supposed to look like
Isn't that
the
my
1960s, 1966, you know, cartoon. To the point where they demanded that they do a test where he just painted Jim Carrey with regular makeup and used hair pieces.
Oh, no.
Which I've seen the test. You can see them online. It looks amazing.
Oh, okay.
But it just doesn't have the same. So finally what happened was, I think Jim came to Rick's shop, and Rick had done tests on himself, and he was looking at pictures of them, and he said, I like that one. Why isn't it just that one? So Rick just made it, and that's what they got.
And that's just how it
and
is.
he won an Oscar for it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
I have the list of Men in Black, Jim Grinch, Baker, well,
American Werewolf, Harry and the Hendersons. Yeah.
Harry and the
I love Harry and the Hendersons.
Harry and the Hendersons. Oh, such a classic child's movie. Okay, moving on. So the next one I wanted to talk about, and I've heard that Perlman had a fucking nightmare with this, was Hellboy, the original Hellboy, not the remake with what's his nuts from
David Harbour.
but the original Hellboy and Hellboy and the Golden Army.
Yeah.
So what would, because that's a giant headpiece that's getting into coloring, and I would imagine you take the lead. Please tell us how.
It's no different from the Grinch. It's still foam latex pieces. Yeah, he had a big headpiece with the horns. You got to remember too, none of this is comfortable.
It can't
right?
be.
Especially foam rubber is not comfortable, and it smells. And you feel like you're.
What does it smell like?
It smells like sulfur.
Oh.
Now we put stuff.
What's a sulfur mask?
We put what's called a reodorant into the foam, so it has a more pleasant smell.
Smell like fresh laundry?
It smells like lavender.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. And lavender is a soothing smell.
Yeah.
That's what they put in all those atomizers,
Yeah.
so it makes sense.
But but foam latex, it's tight.
Yeah.
It breathes. You can sweat through it, but it's not comfortable. And then when he had the whole bodysuit, like, it's just not, it's not a comfortable thing. And you have to be, to me, because I've worn tons of these things, and I've actually, like I was telling you, I was on the X-Files for, a week playing something. You have to be incredibly devoted, like Doug Jones, to your craft of wanting to put that on. And you get remunerated very well. But it is not comfortable, for sure. And I worked with Ron Perlman. Like, I did a life cast of him for a TV movie that we did in Vancouver a million years ago called The Adventures of Captain Zoom in Outer Space.
Oh,
and
he sounds like a hit.
He was a really nice guy. He's a super nice guy. And
I met him at Comic-Con a couple of years ago. He's a very nice guy.
Yeah, and totally devoted to his craft and whatever. So I can't imagine that he was an asshole. I could just imagine that it's just not. And the guy's, he's the original Doug Jones, where he was, a lot of his roles were prosthetic makeups.
Well, with the Beauty and the Beast that he did.
And then he was in The Name of the Rose, where he had prosthetics on his face there.
Yeah.
Hellboy, and Quest for Fire. Like,
Perlman said
right.
he, until they picked David Harbour, Perlman said he would do it again.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
yeah, he said he was totally down for it. Which I mean, when you do something like that, when you put a guy through that much work for 2 movies, give him the
Hellboy.
third. Like, I've solidified my role as Hellboy.
Oh yeah, he's so good in it. Mm-hmm. And but in terms of, I'm not trying to say that the makeup's not good by saying it's just the same thing as the Grange.
Yes, you're just saying the same
makeup
techniques.
is
It's
brilliantly
so good, that's why.
executed.
Yeah.
It is brilliantly sculpted. It's expertly applied. It's a great character makeup. It's terrific. It's amazing. I love it.
It is one of my favorites. And like the CGI that they add into it, like that's one of those complimentary.
Yeah,
where
totally.
You're taking both, like with the flaming horns above his head when he's a kid and stuff, and the big hand. Like,
Well, that makeup on the kid was actually. So in the first movie, Rick Baker's studio just did Hellboy, and there was 2 other companies that built the other stuff.
Yeah.
There's the Samael creature.
Oh yeah,
and,
the thing that's running.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one of the companies is a Spanish company, and they won Oscar for what's the movie where Doug Jones plays the Pan character?
Oh,
Pan's
Shape
Labyrinth.
of Water.
Pan's Labyrinth.
Pan's
Shape of
Labyrinth.
Water.
Yeah.
Pan's Labyrinth.
Same thing.
Same thing.
So that company that won the Oscar for that did stuff for Hellboy. And on Hellboy 2, there's the young Hellboy,
Yes. Yeah.
And so the couple that owns this company, the wife played the young Hellboy because she's like little, and so she
That's
went
a
through
girl?
the whole thing. Yeah.
Wow.
And that makeup to me is also incredible. Like it's really well executed. And the thing you have to remember about all of this stuff, okay, I'm pointing just because you guys can't see my workshop.
Well, they will after once we take a shit ton of
My
pictures.
workshop,
of
when
everything.
you see, I don't have pictures of my work up at all. I have pictures up of stuff that inspires me, like posters from The Wizard of Oz and Planet of the Apes and 2001: A Space Odyssey and The Exorcist and Lon Chaney. Because when I come into my workshop, I want to be inspired. It's nice and bright, and I just want to come in here and make cool stuff. And so I'm loving.
I do too now.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an inspirational room, man.
So when I'm I'm a big, huge fan of this. But when I'm saying that, it's just the same old techniques, that doesn't mean that the makeup's not revolutionary and executed well. Because the thing about Hellboy and The Grinch and 1968 Planet of the Apes and the Frankenstein monster is that even though they're old technology to create these characters, you still believe every word coming out of their mouth because they were so well executed. Planet of the Apes still works, and it's a movie made in the 60s. There's no car chases and explosions and digital armies of 1 million people. It's a great story and excellent actors working in really well executed makeups.
Very much so.
And that's why all this stuff works.
It's the same stuff done in it's like you said, you have to have the bones of your kit of the same things.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that they're using the same things, it's how well they're using them.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's why all of this stuff works. That's why, and you have Ron Perlman as Hellboy, who's an incredible actor and knows how to work through rubber, and brings a soul to that visage of how he looks.
Very
which
much
is
so.
well executed.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
While you're sweating inside of a thing. Like I know I'm the kind of person, like I'm such a bitch when it comes to creature comforts and such. So like if I was ever lucky enough to be Ron Perlman in Hellboy, I would be demanding so much bullshit from people and like, can you put an air conditioning unit in this thing, please? My balls are sweating. Like,
But they already do stuff like that.
so they do make allowances.
They already, because now we've all been doing this for a long time, and we know, if somebody's, like even here in town, if I've done shows where I have people in aging makeups and we're shooting in the summer, they will bring a giant air conditioning unit and hook a hose up to an open window and refrigerate the set so that the actors are more comfortable.
I would imagine
They do stuff like that. Or they'll build creature suits and they have a cool suit underneath that runs cold water through it so they don't
Okay.
I
die.
believe the 2018 Predator movie, the Predator suit had fans built into it, and the problem was he couldn't hear direction
Maybe.
and stuff because the fans were just running too loud. Well, they're right in the
Pardon?
suit, right? And
What's
you
my
just-
cue? That's a
Things
great
like that.
Yeah. No, with the painting, the body painting. I mean, there's that age-old rumor that the lady from Goldeneye or Goldfinger, sorry, painted in gold paint died. I know it's bullshit, right? The body paint though that goes into characters like Hellboy and whatnot. Is that spray on? Are you brushing?
like
We
a
gotta
Some
remember
alcohol
that
activated?
was a big foam rubber suit.
Oh,
So head to toe, he's in a foam rubber suit from torso up.
From
guess.
torso up. That's not his body. That's,
Okay.
that's a foam rubber suit that he's
Oh
in.
my god, it looks like somebody painted him.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
it's really brilliantly
I
executed.
thought it was just a headpiece, say down to your neckline, and then
I'm sure Ron appreciates that, but
jeez, yeah, like
Yeah.
I would never think that that's a full fucking suit.
yeah,
Wow.
it's a full suit. Same with David Harbour. He had a
Yeah.
full torso.
Damn.
Yeah, arms and everything.
I mean, as much as everybody says you're getting paid $5 million, you're 20 million too much. Well, you go do that for a day, right? And see what it's like to have to build it and go through it. Like,
Oh, yeah.
and that's the purpose of
Plus
talking.
the hours.
Yeah, like 15, 20 hours
Oh,
sometimes, maybe more.
Probably 18 hours a day between getting into the makeup, shooting, and taking it off.
And only probably 6 hours of actual film time because it takes
Maybe.
5 hours to get in sometimes. And
No, they have pre-calls.
oh, okay.
They'll
okay.
have pre-calls. They'll take 3, 4, 5 hours to do what they need. They'll shoot for 10 or 12 hours, and then they'll take an hour
Oh, it's
to
even
clean
worse
them
than
up.
I thought.
Yeah.
Man. Okay, lastly on the list of things I wanted to ask you about before we get into your troves of love here. And I asked this specifically because it's an aging makeup. And it was probably one of the ones that I remember seeing being like, hot damn, that's impressive. What goes into Marty's mom in Back to the Future as they age Leia Thompson?
Oh, so it's again. So that was a guy named Ken Chase who was a makeup artist. I think he's retired now. But he was a permittee. So I just got to give you a bit of backstory.
Yeah,
on Ken
no,
Chase.
we love backstory.
So Ken Chase was what we call a permittee in the IATSE union in LA, which means how you start is you become a permittee and you build up your days. And then once you get your certain number of days, and probably in Los Angeles, he probably needed 120 days working on different shows. Then he would take a test and he would pass it and he would become what's called a journeyman makeup artist.
Wow. Jumps through some hoops.
Yeah. So back when they shot the original Planet of the Apes, there wasn't a lot of, first of all, makeup artists because it was, still much smaller than it is now. And there also was hardly any people who specialized in doing prosthetics because they just, there was the occasional show here and there that might have a nose or whatever. So John Chambers, who designed the makeup for Planet of the Apes, hired Ken Chase, who was a permittee, who had barely any experience, but was super talented and had this drive to apply the Dr. Zaius makeup every day in the original Planet of the Apes. So that's, the guy, he had skill. It's that poster at the end there, Michael. That's
okay.
So he did it for Planet of the Apes and Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and also did Paul Williams' orangutan Virgil in Battle for the Planet of the Apes.
It's so lifelike. It is mind-blowing to me what they were doing in 68.
So Ken became, very excellent and known as a prosthetic guy. And I think he did the first Roots TV miniseries.
Like the LeVar Burton
He created,
one,
the LeVar Burton one. He created all of the aging prosthetics and stuff. So on Back to the Future, it was, again, just the same old technology, but those makeups were very well executed for the time, which was 1985.
What goes in, because aging is kind of one of your things, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to say is one thing easier than the other because it obviously discounts something, but is aging maybe easier than something else, or is it tougher than something else?
No, because everyone, it's like talking about, just do a nose. Creating an aging makeup that looks real is infinitely harder than creating an alien.
That's
right.
what I'm getting at,
right?
Because an alien, you have liberties, right? You can go.
Yeah.
But with aging, it's like, okay, now they look like an old alien.
And again, when you're
look like Alf.
when you're working in movies, there's a lot of input from a different number of people as to how someone is supposed to look. And of course, in that movie, because they're jumping back and forth in time and there's different timelines.
They are?
Yeah.
Fuck me. That's the secret to the movie.
So at the beginning of the movie, if you notice, she looks much plumper and heavier. And the actor playing George, his dad.
What the fuck's his nuts?
Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover.
He looks more worn and stuff.
He does.
And then at the end of the movie, they look different. They still look older, but they look more attractive.
Right?
She's thinner and stuff. So there's all kinds of stuff that go into things that you don't even really notice when you're watching the movie.
Nope, not till you said it.
Yeah. And then the other thing, too, which I'm sure no one noticed, but in Back to the Future, Doc Brown is aged at the beginning and end of the movie.
But in the middle?
But in the middle, he's not.
Oh.
And it's done very subtly. He's got old age stipple on his face and made to look older and paler and stuff. And then when Marty goes back in time, that's all gone.
Yes, when they find him at his house and he's like, Doc, what are you doing here? Oh, I just fell off the toilet. Yeah.
I didn't even notice.
Flex capacitor. But those makeups were well executed. And again, like, making somebody look older and heavier, that's quite difficult.
I would imagine it would be because it's a definitive characteristic, right? Like you can say, wow, that person looks 60 and you're trying to make them look 40, and then you can kind of fall off your trajectory. So that where you can make an alien, you just make it nastier or scarier
or Alf.
Right? Like or Elf. Elf's on Prime. I think you're watching it, aren't you?
Yeah, I have been.
Okay.
I really have been watching Alf.
So yeah, and that's kind of want to get your take from it. And does she look the way, like from your eye, is she aging appropriately?
You mean in the show?
Yeah, is it the
I mean, I look at it, I'm looking at it with a very critical eye, right?
Yeah.
So at the time, I thought it was amazing. Looking back on it now, it's well executed. Again, there's so many things that go into why something might work or something might not work, or might not work as well. That could be input from a whole bunch of people. It could be time. It could be money. But again, on the whole, I think that it's quite successful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is the most beloved movie of all time, I think. Like, you can't walk into a room and say Back to the Future and someone tell you to fuck off.
Yeah, everyone loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's just a super talented makeup artist. Yeah.
Do you find that, I mean...
That's Rain, by the way, people.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'm okay with background sound effects, right?
Okay,
like
good.
If we can get a Foley artist on just by what we're recording, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But we were talking before we got here, and it kind of made... Do you find that a set where I read about this thing recently called flow, and flow is what happens to gamers or people who find themselves in the same task for a long period of time. We've broken. You're good. Okay. I don't want you. I mean, you said the power might go off. I don't want you to fall out of your chair. So, but what I was getting at is that do you find that a set where everybody's on the same page, going in the same direction, a little bit easier to work on than where it's chaos? Like, is that because we were talking about the hierarchy of a set and stuff, and I don't want to get into the politics of it, but for a creative person like yourself, is makeup easier when everything is flowing in the right direction and you don't get caught in like a loop where you're like trying to get out, or does that matter to you in your craft?
No, I mean, in the end, you want to please the director. You want to make sure that what you're doing, he's happy with. Because I've been on a few sets where, the director's super happy with what you're doing, and a producer who's not in a creative position, because there's different producers, and a producer who might not be in a creative aspect of it doesn't agree with or doesn't think that direction is good. And I've been doing this a long time now, and in the end, I just don't care now. I just
hell yeah.
If the director is happy with what we're doing, that's the most important thing.
Okay.
And the actor,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna get into what you like now.
Okay.
All right. So you listed Planet of the Apes, 1968, Wizard of Oz, 1939, and Citizen Kane, 41. Okay, 41. Let's start with Wizard of Oz. What is it that you love so much about the makeup in Wizard of Oz? Because I read a bunch of things today, and that movie had a lot of problems. A lot of people were replaced. A lot of things were changed on the fly, and it still came out a fucking masterpiece. So what is it about that?
Different directors.
Yes.
Well, first, it's the first, as far as I know, it's the first fantasy movie that had a majority of the main actors in prosthetic makeup.
Yeah, an ensemble.
I don't think that had ever been really done. There was a 1935 version of Shakespeare's
King Lear.
No,
Romeo and Juliet.
No, it's a fantasy piece with Puck and.
Not Much Ado About Nothing.
No,
it's the lovers one with Puck, the little jester of sorts.
Anyway, there's a 35 version of it. Mickey Rooney's in it. A lot of big actors at the time were in it, and that had a lot of fantasy makeups and stuff. But
weren't they like minotaurs and such in that?
Yeah,
sweet
stuff.
Yeah. But Minotaur Dick Jimmy, just like that one episode.
Yeah, but the Wizard of Oz was really the first time. Like there was, first of all, the guy who played the wizard, he has, I think he's 4 different people in that movie. He plays Professor Marvel, the Wizard of Oz, the coachman driver, and the guy at the door to Emerald City.
Right.
So he's in three
lot of makeup.
three
Yeah.
prosthetic makeups, right? I mean, that's really cool. You know, like when he is the Wizard of Oz, I believe he's got like little cheek pieces and a nose piece and a chin and a bald pate with a cool wig. And then you have like the actors who are not only playing the Cowardly Lion, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow, but they're also the characters in Dorothy's real world in
Universe, right.
Kansas,
Oh,
right?
so they're playing the
Yeah.
humans and yes, okay.
So
yeah.
that's really cool. And then you have the witch, which is also Miss Gulch, and then all the Munchkins. Like it was a huge movie.
Well, Technicolor being a
And
huge thing at the
Technicolor,
time,
yeah.
like it was riding a wave of a lot of different production value as
Like-
things in the industry.
like that jumped a huge boundary between what was
I have
being
made
done.
fire.
Yeah, exactly. to that, and
Tell
so
that to the Wicked Witch of the West.
to be able to produce, oh yeah, exactly. To be able to produce all of those makeups and whatnot it's just incredible, and it's so well execued.
it's
It's amazing.
Jack Dawn is the artist. If I'm
Jack
not-
Dawn is
yeah.
the artist, but Charles Schramm, who he became an amazing makeup artist, great at foam latex and character stuff. William Tuttle, who won the first Oscar for Seven Faces of Dr. Lowe. Probably Westmore's worked on it. Like there was a ton of what became big makeup artists worked on it.
It's a launch pad for some
Oh, yeah.
serious career. And I mean, your
Yeah.
resume is on screen, right? Which
Yeah.
is why I would imagine that guy who took the what's his nuts for some stills.
Yeah.
You know, like they have a sense of fucking what's going on around you, buddy, right?
Yeah.
I have some notes here on it. So Tin Man's costume was made of leather covered buckram.
Yeah,
What's buckram?
it's a material.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. And then
Do you know the story about the Tin Man's makeup and the
no,
two actors that
tell
played
us
him?
the story.
So originally, the Tin Man was played by Buddy Ebsen,
Okay.
who's Barnaby Jones, and Jed Clampett from the Beverly Hillbillies.
We struck oil.
So how they originally did his makeup, and they shot with him for several weeks, they would paint his face with clown white makeup, so it was very greasy, and then they dusted him with aluminum powder. And because there's all these things about him being allergic to the makeup. Well, what happened was he was inhaling the aluminum
Oh no.
for weeks and weeks and weeks, till one morning he woke up and he just couldn't breathe. And so he was in an iron lung for
The
for
Tin Man was in
weeks.
an iron lung.
So he was replaced with Jack Haley. And once they figured this out, somebody said, well, why don't we just mix the aluminum into the clown white?
Yeah.
And that's what they did. So
Let's make it more of a paste. Let's
Yeah.
put it. Jesus Christ.
so that's why, because for years you'd read that he had an allergic reaction.
I've
Yeah, that's
heard,
what I
yeah.
always thought it was.
Yeah.
Well, that was probably what the publicity department
Right.
wanted the world to know, right?
Not that they were.
That's not what happened. So,
PR got a handle on it.
yeah.
As they do.
And then apparently the lion costume was like real lion skins and
Yes, yeah, it
Cool.
does say that here for the lion too. Cowardly Lion was made from lion skin and fur. For the horse of a different color scene, Jello powder was used to color the white horses. Asbestos was used to achieve some of the
No.
special effects, like witch burning broomstick and the fake snow that covers Dorothy as she sleeps in the field of poppies.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's
They just
Wikipedia. So I
they
kind of
just
wanted
rained it down on them.
Oh no.
Yeah.
rained down.
Well, because when
asbestos.
they're lying in the field, the poppy field,
Yeah.
and they're falling asleep, and Glinda, the good witch, wants
Makes
them to
it
wake
snow.
up. She
Yeah.
makes it snow, and it's asbestos. Yeah.
because aluminum wasn't enough to
Aluminum
inhale.
no, not at all.
Jesus Christ! And then Tin Man's oil was chocolate syrup.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, funny how something out off the shelf in the kitchen. Like, do you notice that? Like, do you ever try that sometimes where you're like,
I did as a kid.
yeah, well,
Oh yeah.
okay, but
and I've done a couple of black and white movies, and for blood, just use
Hershey's.
chocolate
Well, that's what
syrup.
they used in Psycho, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh.
it's a good glass of milk and it's a good way to stab
yeah.
somebody in the shower.
Yeah.
I've always loved. I mean, I love the Wizard of Oz, but I love the Return to Oz that really weird 80s movie that they did where like the flying
With Fairuza
monkeys
Balk, yeah.
and Fairuza Balk and like the different heads and stuff like
it's
that.
cool, yeah.
It was so cool. But The Wizard of Oz, is definitely, I mean, for its time, 1939, I mean, you are writing a book for, I would imagine.
Oh, it's a benchmark for makeup.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Your second pick, we're going to save this to last because I love it as much as you do, but Citizen Kane. I have never seen, Jimmy, have you ever seen Citizen Kane?
I know Citizen Kane through Simpsons references. Only.
Okay, all right. So neither of us have seen Citizen Kane.
Okay. Just hold on 1 second here. You guys have a podcast called Real, REEL, Debaters.
Yeah, this is a
you
shame.
talk about movies.
Give it to us.
You hate television. And you guys have never seen the greatest movie ever made.
I know. Give it to us. We deserve it.
How can you not have seen it?
Okay, so here is how this whole podcast started based on what we know, what we didn't know.
Disgusted.
I know.
No, I don't blame you because as I was picking this up, I was like, I've seen Planet, I've seen Wizard of Oz, but I haven't seen Citizen Kane, and I know it is a benchmark for how they made cinema. It is a story it is the heyday of big Hollywood movie. But I just
The Simpsons reference it so much. I feel like I know.
So I stopped. My mother had me watch a lot of old stuff when I was a kid. I kind of have fallen off track. So I have made a solemn vow for the rest of 2020 because there's not much to fucking do to watch as many classics.
Do you own a computer?
I do. Yeah. Fuck. Jesus. Oh, I should have said
Let me
nothing
tell you
and been like, I love it too.
What is my TV on right now? It's on
Julius Caesar?
American Movie Classics.
Oh, AMC, baby.
AMC. Yeah.
This is Ben-Hur.
Yeah,
Oh
this
my
is Ben-Hur.
God.
Stanley Kubrick. Yeah.
I can't believe
I'm sorry.
I can't believe I invited you guys to my house.
I know. For shame.
I'm a huge movie freak, so I watch everything from silents that were made in 1915 all the way to today.
And
I love movies. Up above us, this loft above me, are a million books on classic movies. Because
maybe you should send us with one each so that we get the fuck
maybe,
caught up here.
Maybe I should take over Real Debate.
You can be our consultant.
There you go.
You can
Okay.
keep us in line.
Yeah. Anyway, you should acquaint yourselves with these old movies because
I know we
a
should.
lot of them
Yeah.
are way better made and are more compelling than a lot of stuff made today.
And that is the problem, is that we have grown up in an era where we're not educated on it, and we're educated on the blockbusters. We follow a different set of how rules are followed.
Yeah.
So back in the day, I imagine it was the story. It wasn't the box office success. It was the effort that
It's
went
the
into
story
making.
and the characters.
Yeah, and now it's what drives cinema is dollars and cents. So
Yeah, but for instance, one of the things that makes Citizen Kane an amazing movie, other than the fact that Orson Welles was 24 and they just gave him a blank check and said make a movie. He had never made a movie. He had never directed a movie. All he had done was theater. He had never done anything.
well, it reads as theater. There's it's got the play aspect. I've seen scenes of it. But
Sure,
like, I
but
mean,
here's what's really amazing about Citizen Kane. One, it jumps back and forth in the story all the time.
it's got different timelines, right?
It has different timelines. It's a lot of it is shot kind of documentary style.
Interesting. What is this?
It's actually, if you first watch it, you think you're watching a newsreel documentary about Charles Foster Kane. And the other thing is that it breaks the fourth wall continuously.
Really?
Yes. Which no movie had
At the
done
time, yeah.
up to that point.
You mean there was no Deadpool back then?
There was no Deadpool. No. So there's a couple times where one of the characters actually turns and talks to the camera. Nothing like that had been done before. So now I'm just talking about the movie as a whole.
Yeah.
They built intricate sets. They did things that no other person would do. Like he had them cut a hole in the floor to put the camera, because the camera couldn't go low enough, into the set in concrete, so that they could stand 6 feet into the floor so they could get one specific shot.
Just a straight vertical, yeah.
Yeah. At the time when the movie came out, it was Pan, and everyone said this is a piece of crap. It has now become the what they call the greatest movie ever made.
Yeah.
And you have to watch it because the cinematography, the lighting, everything in this movie is pure genius.
It's not that I don't like watching the classics.
No,
I love the classics. I just feel I need to defend myself.
No, I'm just teasing you. But
I know you are.
But you should watch it because all these old movies will give you a really good sounding for stuff that you're watching now.
Jimmy, we got homework.
Yep.
And when you watch those old movies and then watch stuff that you're seeing now with all of the digital and everything, making movies back then was way harder, but to me, more effective.
Is that
So
because
if
they
you
didn't
watch-
have all the toys of today and they were kind of relying on...
If you needed 1,000 extras in period costume running around on a set, you had to build all that and whatever, and it makes it more real to me.
Yeah.
So if you watch Ben-Hur with all of these extras and the famous chariot race, that's all shot for real with guys in chariots in a coliseum they built with 1 million extras. And
How did they go about finding all these extras back then? Was
Well,
it just
that-
newspaper ads?
Email.
Yeah.
that's the great thing about all
my
these
Lord.
old movies, that
The work that goes into rounding up 1,000 extras
yeah,
alone.
and
Yeah.
it to me, they just, a lot of it, it has a 50s look or whatever, but to me, they're just so well executed. And this is Citizen Kane. It is a genius movie. And one of the genius things about it was the makeup, because all the characters age and it jumps back and forth in time. So there was a makeup artist. He was like a what we call a permittee at the time. He wasn't a union member.
Green thumb.
Yeah, and his name was Maurice Siderman. And Orson Welles was in the makeup department, and he saw this guy in this little room building these prosthetics and stuff, which no one was doing. And he was looking at it going, wow, this guy's like really good. Like, can we get him to do the stuff on the movie? And they're like, no one knew who Orson Welles was. He was nobody. They're like, yeah, use him. We don't want him.
Right.
Because this guy was, I want to change how stuff's done. So if you watch Citizen Kane, the makeups in that movie are as well executed as any makeups you'll see today. And they're so well executed in realism that they don't look like makeup. And you see him as a young guy who's like the young Charles Foster Kane, and you see him when he's like in his late 60s, and he's bald with a hairline, and he's got
I saw the images
jowls
today,
and latex stipple around his eyes. It is incredible for the time, but also even now. When you watch the movie, you're never betrayed that it's makeup. And that's the thing. It always looks real. And what happened was, if you watch the movie, there's no makeup credit.
Really?
Weird.
Because back in the
There
day,
should be.
in the studio system, only the head of the department got
the credit. Okay.
So
Boo Earns.
So
There's a
on
Simpson reference
on
right
most
there.
movies you see, it'll say makeup by 20th Century Fox movie,
Doug
makeup
Morrow.
by Ben Nye.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean Ben Nye did the makeup. He had people working underneath
4
him.
or 5 assistants.
Exactly.
and, yeah.
They would do all the work, but because he was in charge.
That's not right.
So when Orson Welles found this out, because he was new to Hollywood, he didn't know how it worked. He said, well, this guy, he didn't do any of the makeup. So I'm not giving him credit. He should get credit. And they said, well, he's not in the union yet, so he can't get credit. So Citizen Kane has no makeup credit. So when the movie came out, President Roosevelt at the time liked the movie, and he invited Orson Welles to come to the White House for lunch.
Cool.
And in the course of discussing the movie, Roosevelt says, the makeup in this movie was really good. Like, you age, and it's all done, and the characters, everyone ages. It's expertly executed. And Orson Welles said, well, yeah, and this young guy, Maurice Siderman, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it.
Yes.
He's not in the union. They won't give him his union card, but he created all that stuff.
The president's even like, this guy's the shit, and they still won't do it.
So apparently, the next day, at the studio, a car drives up, a limousine with some federal official guy
Someone
goes
with
in the
on.
makeup department and gives him his union card.
What?
So I guess Roosevelt got on the phone, talked to the studio, and said, "This is ridiculous. This guy did all this stuff. He's a genius. Give him his union card."
You're gonna
No
tell
kidding.
the president no?
And that's what happened.
That's a fucking amazing story.
Yeah. So he got his union
You
card.
get a reference from the president.
Yeah.
Way to go, Teddy. Way to go.
So Maury Simon went on to do a whole bunch of stuff, and he was one of Dick Smith's early influences, other than Jack Pierce.
It's, you know, and I love that about what you guys do is that you're all learning off each other. Like it's not a competition, it seems, in makeup. Because,
Oh no, you have to stand on the shoulders of those before you, because somebody's going to come up with something or make molds or whatever, and you're going to take that and
run with
build
it.
on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. As opposed to like, well, no, you can't do what I've done. This is mine. This is priority for me. Well, no, how else are you going to move an industry if you guys can't share a brain, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay. Last one. The one I want you to guess out on. Drop it in the sixth gear. Planet of the Apes,
Okay.
1968. What is it that you love about the ape? And I mean, we're going to be here for an hour, I think.
No. Again, it's like Citizen Kane. It was other than the Wizard of Oz, it was one of the first movies that all of the main characters, except for Charlton Heston and Nova, Linda Harrison, are in prosthetic makeup. So that was, something that hadn't been done.
It's
except
almost
for
reverse,
Wizard of Oz,
right?
really.
Like
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was a lot of research and development, figuring out what they're going to look like, and they did all kinds of tests and whatnot. And basically it came down to they created an assembly line approach where, first of all, they had to train a whole bunch of people, because in the 60s there wasn't many people who did that kind of stuff. So Ken Chase was one of them, and they just almost got people off the street.
Playing jazz, you're figuring out as you go.
Train them.
Ooh, want to be a monkey?
Train them to be makeup artists and put them on and put these makeups on in a certain amount of time, and but the most important thing that movie did is that it one showed that you can create realistic characters with makeup that sell a movie, and two, most people who are my age, maybe a little older than me, who
Late
do
30s?
what I do. What's that?
Late 30s?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Thank you. Let me go put one of those wigs on, and then maybe. That's what inspired them to do this. You talk to anyone who's my age or older who do this kind of stuff, and they'll go, Planet of the Apes.
It does seem like it does seem like that is the movie, right?
Yeah.
Out of all, and when
Out of most of them, that's it.
well, I think does it have to do with the fact that it's not like, okay, so we're taking people and turning them to ghouls and zombies and stuff, but this is taking a human and turning it into a monkey and doing it the best way possible to eliminate the human in that. Whereas before you're trying to take a human and put makeup on it to make them look dead or whatever. They're still a human, but you're jumping the monkey, so to speak.
Now it's just Andy Serkis.
Yes, now Andy Serkis is everybody's monkey.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, there is something to be said about motion capture and how you can move and stuff like
Well,
that.
I've seen I don't know if you've seen the video of him showing everyone how he walks like a monkey. It's just the two small crutches, and he arches his back. It's incredible to watch him actually do it.
Is it for King Kong? Is that?
No, I think it was for Planet.
Oh, it was for Planet of the
Yeah.
Apes. When you say assembly line, would they literally come in and be like, okay, one person would do this piece, and then they would move them down,
No,
another person?
in assembly line in terms of how you put the makeup on.
Yes, okay.
So they got a vacuform face, again, something that had never been done before. They would vacuform the faces to sit all the appliances on. That was one thing, so that was a game changer. The other thing was, this was the first time that they pre-painted prosthetics. These
Okay.
weren't masks, right? These were prosthetics that were glued on, so they pre-painted them with rubber cement paint to cut the makeup time down. That had never been done before. And then the assembly line approach was, you would get this face with the upper portion and the lower jaw, hair pieces, and what's called a hackle, which is like a whole bunch of nails kind of, in a way, stuck through a thing that you mix hair on. Because once you put the hair pieces down, you had to lay hair over the edge. And then you got 3 colors of makeup, which were, you had to put a certain color here, a certain color here, a certain color here. So there was no deviation from that. They taught you you put this on and it should take this much time. You put this on, it should take this much time. Then you blend the edges with this duo surgical adhesive, eyelash adhesive. Then you put the makeup on. Then they're going to go get their wig on. Then you're going to put the hair pieces on and lay the hair around it. And it should take you 3.5 hours.
You should be done by the end of this song.
And yeah, exactly. So you start here, then you do this, then you do this, then you put this on, this on, this on in terms of the coloring. After the wig, you're going to put this hairpiece on, this hairpiece on, this hairpiece on. Then you're going to lay the hair around and curl it, and they're done. So there was no...
I do love the idea of monkeys just curling each other's hair.
Yeah. But there was no...
Where's behind the scenes shot of that?
There was no you trying to be creative and doing something different.
It was just do it this
there
way.
was a...
This is the secret.
This is the way we're doing all of them. This is the way we got to get them out on time. Okay. Don't deviate from it.
That's really cool. And
it
I
ain't
mean,
broke.
And to say that, like when you take away from the creative ability and get to the assembly line factory process, somebody, like I don't know how to use a better analogy, but like you've got a mom and pop restaurant, but when the mom and pop restaurant goes franchise, you lose some of the quality. So I imagine when it comes to movies, you cannot, like, you've got to keep both in. You've got to keep the quality in as much as the time to get it done.
Exactly.
I still don't, like, you just look at it and you're blown away. I don't like the remakes at all. My stepdad, I have some old movies in me, Doug. Planet of the Apes has been watched in my house countless times. Yeah, I think it's one of Charlton Heston's best movies ever, next to Moses and the Ten Commandments.
What about the Omega Man?
That was on TV this morning. One of my favorites.
I love the Omega Man.
Yeah.
What, at 4 a.m. as you were going to bed?
No, it was on this morning.
Oh, okay. But it just has... It has a sense of fantasy to it and a sense of realism at the same time. Like the story, that ending scene where they see the Statue of Liberty and you're just like, what the fuck is going on, right? And it is great to question, what would happen if the monkeys colonized us instead of us colonizing them monkeys?
Okay, first, I just have to correct you on something.
Seems like that's the day.
You might see a bit of it here, but I have more up there. So I'm a huge primate fan, and... I'm a huge fan, and I have a great interest in our primitive ancestors.
Okay.
So they are not monkeys. They are apes.
Okay.
Monkeys have tails.
Apes don't.
Apes don't. So there are
The more
great
you know.
great apes, and then there are lesser apes.
Okay.
And then there are...
Well, I know there's lesser apes. I know
monkeys.
I know a few of them.
Yeah. Why'd you look at Jimmy?
More for reassurance than confirmation.
Just telling you right now. Yeah. Because if you watch Escape from the Planet of the Apes, you're going to see Cornelius get really mad at a guy calling him a monkey.
Ah, that's right. That's right. They even include that in the bullshit Mark Wahlberg remake where he's like, you're all fucking monkeys. He's like, we are not monkeys.
Yeah.
How dare you insult us like this?
That's right.
We asked you this before, and I kind of wanted to dig a little bit deeper into it. CGI and makeup and special effects, there have been comments about how one is better than the other and one may replace the other. Do you see a lovely marriage going forward? Can you see makeup ever being something that could be replaced? Because I read some, I'll read you the quotes I pulled on this, which...
Well, I don't mind when they I think there are places where they could use both. Like if it's, because in a lot of horror movies they'll use practical effects and then just add CGI like blood or something
They'll
just to make it more
accent them.
splat. Exactly.
Yeah, and so
I'm fine with that. Like I think that's okay.
I don't ever want to see practical go away. I think makeup, it has to stay, and we've got everything that's going to technology. There's just you can't, you have to render it, and it has to look everything. It has to be done to the point where it looks imperfect, and there should be a sense of imperfection. I feel, because that's realism, right? Where it looks too good, like when a record sounds too good, you're like, no, I want to hear the raindrops in the background as we're recording because that was a real moment. Versus eliminating it all. And I read here, Tom Savini, SFX artist from Dawn of the Dead and Creepshow, states, they still use the makeup guys to design the creatures, and that's what they work from. I don't think you'll ever see makeup artist guys hanging around corners with signs that say, we'll do effects for food. You agree?
Yeah, I agree. And again, being a person who actually works in the business, there's a couple of things to say to that. One, what I'm seeing is a lot of directors, and especially younger ones, wanting to use practical effects, and just if they need digital help, to accent it with digital. And the other thing too is, when it comes down to it, a director wants to direct a performance, and what director is gonna, be happy sitting there having next to no choice in something because it's done digitally, right?
Yeah.
Now, that being said, Planet of the Apes was done very, very well, but I still think you could do it practically and augment it digitally. To me,
I think we all agree on
because
that.
the thing, what you were saying about, they can render it exactly and stuff, you still need to feel like you can touch it, and
That's
it's
exactly it.
still not quite there yet.
No.
And they've also, I've seen them do digital aging makeup and stuff. One, it's super expensive, like incredibly expensive. So most movies wouldn't be able to use that technology. But for instance, they digitally aged Captain Marvel, right?
Captain America.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
So they use some prosthetics and then digitally. And to me, I look at it and why didn't they just do the whole thing as a makeup?
Yeah.
They could have done the whole thing as a makeup. And then if they wanted to go in and augment something
after,
why not?
And that, I guess that's what I'm asking, is that I think it should always be, and I'm sure we all agree, it should start from the touch, the feel. Make it, spec it, build it from scratch.
Yeah.
Try your best efforts if you need the assistance, but the record store is gone, the bookstore is gone, and it's all because of things that have to do with technology. And the one thing that makes movie magic fun, I would imagine, for you guys is to be able to play, to have the tangible, right?
Totally.
But to put everything on a computer screen, you're just a hacker
No.
figuring out a program to solve.
I'm in.
But that's why, so for instance, Benjamin Button, Rick Baker and Kazu built the different stages of heads for Brad Pitt. And that's what they used to create those stages when he's a little kid but looking old.
Yeah.
Right?
Reverse aging.
They still created silicone with punched in hair and painted it with fake eyes to help them create the digital aspect of it.
And
even though I don't know if you guys ever read Cinefex.
Well, we will now, because we've been called out for not watching Citizen Kane. So anything you teach us today will be on the reading list this week.
I got kind of upset. There was an article about, they did an article about Benjamin Button and the digital, I guess he was the digital supervisor, was talking about the makeup, not specifically that makeup, but just makeup as a whole, saying, well, you put somebody in makeup and it's, you're just making Brad Pitt look older and it's just makeup or whatever. And
what do you mean?
What the fuck do you mean? That's the whole point?
To me, well, I mean, in a way he's right, because when we do things like this, you're not just making Brad Pitt look older, you're making the character look older that Brad Pitt is performing.
Okay, so it's kind of layered.
So it's a layered thing, right? And again, everyone has their inputs as to, they wanted Brad Pitt to look very attractive. And I read somewhere, I think, that Brad Pitt wanted to look very weathered, and they didn't want that. And it was a combination of
hot
things.
old man.
But to say
Brad
that
Pitt's going to be ugly one day. Let's just get to the fucking point.
But to say that it's just makeup, is, I think that's an insult.
It's a huge insult.
Because if you'll notice, like the Penguin and Batman, it's a practical makeup.
Looks great.
You see makeup being used all the time. To me, it's not going to go away. Most likely because doing digital stuff is incredibly expensive.
Is it the hours that go in? Is it just the hourly rate, or is it the software?
No,
whenever I hear this, I go, okay, what is so expensive about the process?
It's the labor.
Okay, so it's
the
in the labor.
So
right.
If you have Jimmy in a movie and he's in 400 shots and he's supposed to be 72 years old, That's a lot,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, I get it.
Whereas if you put Jimmy in makeup and we add maybe 2 weeks to the schedule because, the makeup takes a while, that's probably infinitely cheaper and would look just as realistic using the technology that we have today.
You're absolutely right when you say it's about feeling like you can touch it. Like you're absolutely right about that. Like you can, it's close now, but it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, exactly. Like, to me, they're just super incredibly well done animation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
and don't get me wrong, the apes in Planet of the Apes are incredible.
It looks great.
Like
it
looks
it's
amazing.
just not quite there.
But it doesn't look real.
But when I watch it, there's still something between them and me that I can't do that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You'll
And
just grab pixels.
at some point, they're gonna get it.
Yeah.
So to me, the best way to use it is a combination of,
Complimenting each other.
yeah,
Right.
like if there's something that I'm doing on an aging makeup that they think they can enhance, then by all means, because it's not about me, it's about the character in the show, right? So I don't have a problem with that. But I just don't think makeup. It seems to me makeup is more popular than ever.
I think it's got a resurgence. I mean, after having Jimmy in my life and watching a lot of horror and sci-fi and stuff where makeup is required to create a sense of realism, I have more of effect for practical effects and makeup now than I did before. And that comes from like getting into it and researching it. So like, I mean, your average person who isn't us doing this podcast probably wouldn't do that, but that's the purpose, is to highlight what you do and why it adds so much to a film instead of just going by the wayside and being like, well, it can be digital one day. Let's not celebrate the
a perfect example is the Wolfman with Benicio del Toro, and the final look is a makeup, but they use digital for the transformations, and a 6-year-old kid would be able to tell because it just doesn't.
Yeah, you can feel it.
It doesn't look real. It doesn't look organic. It doesn't. It looks.
And it
to me,
takes you out of it, right?
looks bad.
Yeah. You do lose.
But you contrast that with Rick Baker's transformation from An American Werewolf in London, which came out 39 years ago.
Still the best.
Just last week. It's way better than anything that's been done.
It just looks
digitally
so good.
or otherwise. It is, and the same with Rob Bottin's The Thing. It still withstands the test of time, and it works. It works 100%. Just like in The Exorcist, Max von Sydow is Father Marin, and the guy is supposed to be in his early 70s, and Max von Sydow is 44.
Incredible.
There's no one watching that movie who ever suspected that was
I always thought he was that age. Yeah, I just assumed he was an old guy.
And it still works to this day.
They still, I think for Alien Covenant, they still used puppets for the face huggers. And they use them to crawl around. It looks incredible, Mike. You should watch a lot of the back or behind the scenes stuff. It looks really good.
After having not bought a Blu-ray in God knows how long because I don't even have a Blu-ray player anymore.
What's that round droid from the new Star Wars movies?
BB-8.
So BB-8 is a functioning
robot.
Yeah,
robot that's on a green stick that's puppeteered, but it's there.
It looks
good, and it's not a digital thing. It looks totally real.
Yeah. And Bill Hader is the voice.
BB-8.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Bill Hader and J.J. Abrams, good buddies. 2 weeks before the movie came out, they still didn't have sound for BB-8, so he went in and they digitally remastered his voice, and he's the beep boop 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 beep.
Cool.
Well, more you know. Man, you are just a fucking plethora of knowledge. I thought we talked to you out the first time, but there's so much. I feel
I could go on for hours.
I know you can, and I feel good, and I feel a little bit spanked. I feel a lot more smarter.
A lot more smarter.
Yeah, no, I think I'll watch. I am very attracted to the big shiny objects. I think it's my ADD. So Tony Stark pulls my eye just because he's shiny and cool and funny.
And I like garbage.
And he likes everything on Shudder and Tubi.
Yeah.
But I mean, garbage has a home too. So, but I as a person who runs a podcast, I think the top 25 best movies ever made need a rewatch since I was a child to see what you're talking about and just have a better respect for it, for sure. I would love to switch this to the portion of the show that we came to your lovely studio for. So when talking to Doug about this, Jimmy being the horror buff that he is and our resident horror expert, Doug has so graciously said that he will put a makeup on Jimmy before we leave. And then we're going to take some pictures of it and put it up on our Instagram for you guys to see when this episode comes out. So as you're listening to this, these images will be out. And you can see the master at work, and we can see what he's going to do to Jimmy's face. Maybe it's an improvement. Maybe it's
When
not.
is this master showing up? Oh, me!
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, bring your wife in now. She-
okay. Yeah.
He can only improve my
Okay.
face.
Come on.
So that is our episode for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Doug, you've been a pleasure as always. Thank you for having us out here. This was super solid of you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for driving out here in the rainstorm.
Oh God, that's nothing. Nothing will stop this.
It's all for the
podcast.
aesthetic.
The only thing that will stop this podcast is Citizen Kane. That's it.
Yeah.
So if this is your first time listening to the show, follow us online at Real Debaters. That's REEL Debaters. That's on Twitter and Instagram. The email address is therealdebaters@gmail.com. That is how you tell us what you think of the show. Give us ideas for the show. Even send us an email and we'll read it online and give us your take on this, that, or the other.
Buy our merch, please.
Buy our merch, threadless and designed by a human. You can find the prop shops on the page. I know you'll find that kind of funny. That was what we named our t-shirt shop, the prop shop. Our
Buy our
webpage,
skateboard decks.
Buy our skateboard decks, yes. As we said last week, the skateboard machine was left on, and we have way too many skateboard decks.
All our 2019 skateboards gotta go.
Gotta go today. The website is therealdebaters.podbean.com. I have been Micheal Petrow. This has been...
Doug Morrow.
That'll do. And over here we got...
Martin Navarro.
And we're gone.